Hello! Hi everyone, I'm Aulia and I'm from 4A. So in this video, I want you to imagine when you're teaching a writing class and your students start arguing about a hot topic. Well, some students maybe get too emotional and some students attack each other personally and maybe some just don't know what is happening and joking. How do I teach them to argue properly and thoughtfully? So this kind of a real situation in the classroom that this book helps to solve. So right now, I'd like to advertise a very useful book. The title is Argument in Composition. It's created by John Ramage and his colleagues. It's Michael Calloway, Jennifer Clary Lemon, and Zachary Wagner. And this book is published in 2009. So this is not just a regular book for a regular student. This is a smart reference book to guide a teachers, some future teachers, or maybe some college education English students like me. So in this presentation, I will give you a summary of the book, and then its strengths, and then there's the weaknesses, and the last is why we should read this book. First, let's begin with a concise summary of the book. So this book is a reference book to help teachers to teach argument in writing class to more effectively. And it has 6 chapters. In chapter 1, the authors explain why argument matters by analyzing 2 real newspaper articles. I want to ask you, do you guys remember about 9/11 accident? The Twin Tower accident. So if you guys knew about that, so in chapter 1, it's actually analyzing 2 real newspaper articles about the 9/11 attacks. One is by John Leo and one is by Stanley Fish. So they show how we can help students move from a simple right or wrong things, black and white things, to more complex thinker, to more deeper thinking. And then chapter 2 covers the history of argument, and then chapter 3 is discusses big debate in teaching arguments such as should teacher teach fallacies, or should teacher teach a propaganda or personal writing. And then chapter 4 is focused on best practice, and it focuses on what really works in class. And the other chapters, including chapter 5 and 6, it provide useful resources like a grocery and reading list and future reading in every section of the book. And overall, the book helps teacher to see the big picture of teaching argument. Alright, so next, we're moving on to the strength of the book. This book has some excellent strengths that make it stand out. So let me get you the first one. First, it is very comprehensive and coherent. So the authors don't just list the theories, they compare them critically. And for example, in the chapter 1, you guys remember about the Twin Tower accident? So they give a detailed analysis to the 9/11 essays, and the result, you can get more clearly understanding different argument styles, and you can explain them to your students more effectively. And then second, it's generally helpful for teachers. So in the preface, the writer says their goal in the book is to help teachers turn theory into real teaching practice. The outcome is you'll feel more confident choosing the right method and textbook for your own courses or classes instead of feeling confused and overwhelmed. And then third, it's to providing a strong framework using Kenneth Burke's ideas. like perfection of work. So the result, you can turn messy emotional classroom arguments into a productive, meaningful discussion, not just about Q&A session. Alright, so now we're moving on into the weaknesses of the book. Well, of course, the book has also some weaknesses. Let me be honest with you. The first one, I found it, the language of the book is quite academic and it's very dense. So, the new teacher, or maybe those who don't really read a lot of theory, might find it very difficult and slow to read. And then the second, it focuses much more on theory rather than practical classroom activities. So what I mean by this is, you'll get a lot of ideas, but you still might have to need to create your own assignment and lesson plans. And then the third one, its view on a visual rhetoric is outdated. What does it mean by outdated? So it doesn't fully prepare you for today's world of videos, memes, or even a social media argument. And the fourth, it was published in 2009. So the outcome is it doesn't cover important modern topics like AI, artificial intelligence, or maybe a social media debate that we faces every day. That's the weakness of the book. So now let's moving on to why should we read this book? So why should we read it? Why should we read this book? Let me give you some real example, okay? Have you ever felt confused when you write an argument and gets too emotional or too shallow? And when the teacher asks you, what is it? And you just say, this is my opinion, ma'am. But without any evidence? Well, many of us have been there, okay? But the teachers felt like something is missing when they teach it. Okay, so this book solves that kind of problems. It helps you to understand the big picture, why some approaches work and the others don't. And for example, after reading the comparison between John Leo and Stanley Fisk in chapter 1, the 9/11 attack, you will much better at showing your student the differences between the strong or the weak arguments. And it also helps you to develop your own teaching style instead of just blindly focus on one method. So when a student says something controversial in class, you don't feel panic. You'll know how to turn it into the discussion, the productive discussion. So in short, this book just doesn't give you the technique. It makes you a more confident and thoughtful teacher. So to conclude, this book, to title this argument in composition, is a rich and helpful guide for anyone who teach, or maybe some college educational student like me. I highly recommend it. So thank you for your attention and thank you for watching it. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer it. Bye!